Hello, it's day 59, and I want to talk about Dr. Bully. So, this isn't about bullying in the medical field, although I know that is something that a lot of obese people have to deal with, is not being taken seriously by their doctors or getting outright refused treatment because they are overweight. That's not what this is about. This is about one particular person who I stumbled across on the internet many, many years ago. So, for those of you not in the know, back around 2008 or 2009, the internet wasn't quite as aggregated as it is now. If you wanted to interact with someone's content, a lot of times you had to go to their personal website or their personal blog. And one such place that I found during a low point in my life was the blog of someone who was calling themselves Dr. Bully. I tried to go back and look for this blog, but it is truly nowhere to be found. If you Google Dr. Bully, you're just going to find a lot of articles about bullying done in the medical field, like I said. But Dr. Bully was a unique phenomenon that lasted for about a week. I can say that I was there for the beginning of the Dr. Bully blog and the end of the Dr. Bully blog. It was about 7 days of true craziness. The idea behind the Dr. Bully blog was that the so-called doctor running the blog would bully people for being fat. He would give stories and anecdotes. He would give advice in a very mean way. One that I remember very vividly was him going on a rant about pizza and how all you have to do if you don't want to be a fatty anymore is eat one slice of pizza and a side of vegetables. That's it. Why is it so hard for you people? It was really awful in that over-the-top offensive way that early internet shock bloggers used to use. Dr. Bully would go on rants. You'd be scrolling through his daily rants because he had a lot to say about fat people. He would talk about fat women, how disgusting they were. He would talk about fat men and how effeminate it made you. He talked about fat children. In fact, he talked about a lot of the same topics that I talk about when I'm making these videos for you guys. But he talked about it in a very, I would almost call it a Fox Newsy kind of way, if that makes sense. Dr. Bully had a whole story about witnessing an overweight woman falling down the stairs. And she got to the bottom of the stairs all crumpled up in serious pain, but she hadn't dropped her tray of food. She had prioritized saving the food rather than saving herself. That's the kind of over-the-top silly stories that you would get. At the time, I was dealing with very serious anxiety issues. This was around the time that I went on my crash diet that lasted for about a week. They didn't overlap, but it was around that same time. And I remember at the time that I felt as though Dr. Bully was really giving a voice to the way that I was feeling about myself. The stories were mean but also funny, so it kept you engaged as you listened to them. As you walked through Dr. Bully's day with him, where he's just encountering annoying fat person after annoying fat person. But the thing that ultimately got Dr. Bully's blog shut down before it even really got off the ground was not the meanness or the concern for bullying that you might think. It was actually the fact that he had a newsletter that you could sign up for. And for a small fee, he would personally bully you for being fat. Yes, indeed, he would personalize a rant just for you to keep you on the straight and narrow so that eventually you could lose weight and stop being one of these horrible, horrible fat people. This was before things like Patreon or anything like that, so you would literally just sign up, give this guy money, and ideally he would give you the meanness back. He would roast you into oblivion. So yeah, Dr. Bully's blog got shut down. And I went to the website one day and I was like, well that was short-lived and very, very strange. But I do remember that the entire time it was active, I was fully engaged. And looking back now, I realize that during that really anxious and angry time in my life, I was using Dr. Bully as a surrogate for my brother's mean voice. I really don't think that bullying does any good for fat people. I have been mercilessly bullied for being fat, and I think that whether I was bullied or wasn't bullied, I would be about the same weight that I am now. There are a lot of people who make arguments for bullying. They will say things like, bullying is the way that a culture polices itself. Like, you don't want weirdos in your culture, so you bully them until they get back in line. This is why when I was in high school, boys would get bullied for painting their nails, girls would get bullied for having short hair, and of course, fat people got bullied for being fat. The whole idea is that bullies are trying to correct you, to try to put you back on the straight and narrow so that you can fit in and be happy eventually. But that's not how it actually works. Anybody who has actually been bullied knows that there's no amount of correction that will ever make your bully happy. The boys in school who stopped painting their nails, the bullies found something new to pick on them for. The girls who did grow their hair back out, there was something else, usually fatness, that they would just move on. The bullies would just move on and start bullying them for that. Bullies are just an outgrowth of meanness in society. If something is not acceptable, bullies are going to find their way in. They're going to burrow into the heart of what is bothering you about yourself. And they don't do it for your own good, no matter what people say. They do it because it makes them feel good, it makes them feel powerful, it gives them a reason to interact with you in a negative light. I wish I knew who Dr. Bully was. Not in a doxing kind of way. I just mean, wouldn't it be neat to ask that person what their plan was long term? I know that it was probably just some guy who thought that he could make a quick buck off of people's insecurities. But what would he have done if something very serious had happened? What if he had bullied someone who paid him money to do it, and then that person went off and did something very drastic to themselves, if you get my drift? What if he went on to bully somebody who wasn't fat, but just had, an eating problem? Or, just what if he had somebody paying him who just had a very, very serious humiliation kink? But that's the thing. Bullies do not think through their actions that far. They just know that in the moment it gives them a quick hit of feeling powerful. That's all it is. If you have a bully in your life, you really kind of owe it to them to just sort of cut them off. Don't give them what they want. For some people, that means just leaving them in the rearview mirror. For other people, that means shutting it down in a very public and excruciating manner. Every bully is an individual. You kind of have to deal with them their own way. But you really, above all, cannot let it get to you. Bullies mean so little in this day and age. They're everywhere. They're a dime a dozen. You do not need somebody to bully you for being fat. And if bullying someone for being fat actually helped them, man, there wouldn't be a single fat person left in this whole world. I'll say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Be kind to yourself. And being kind to yourself also means not letting those words get to you. And not paying someone to put those words in your head. Gotta let it roll off of you like oil. And the older you get, the easier it becomes. But that's my 2 cents for today. I'll see you tomorrow.